to be the dining room and taking these sliding doors out and make it in the French door.
It took John Witt Jenkins a long time to get this home. He bought the land in Dunedin in 1998 for just $15,000. Then, in 2003, he started building the two-story house brick by brick, taking him 3 years.
I built this house for under $100,000.
Could someone really steal your house without ever stepping inside it? Not your TV, not your car, not a few things off your porch. Your entire home. The place you saved for, dreamed about, and maybe spent years building with your own hands. It sounds ridiculous. It sounds like something that just can't happen in a system full of lawyers, title companies, and official records. And yet, that's exactly what happened to one man in Florida whose fully paid-off home was quietly stolen on paper in just a couple of hours, using nothing more than forged signatures, a fake notary stamp, and an online filing system. If you own a home, or hope to own one someday, this is one of the most important scams you need to understand. Because if you click away and keep assuming it could never happen to me, you're thinking exactly the way deed thieves want you to think. Meet the homeowner. Decades of work, gone on paper, John Jenkins did everything the right way. He bought a piece of land in Dunedin back in the late 1990s for about $15,000. He didn't flip it quickly. He didn't treat it like a game. Instead, a few years later, he began building his dream home on that land, brick by brick, over nights and weekends, while working a regular job. It took him around 3 years to finish a two-story house, putting not just money, but sweat, time, and pride into every part of it. To him, that house wasn't just an asset. It was a physical record of his life. Every piece of equity was something he had earned, one brick and one paycheck at a time. Like a lot of us, he would sometimes check the value of his home online. Zillow, real estate sites, property apps, we all do it. One day, he opened Zillow to see what his hard work was worth now, and what he saw didn't make sense. The shock on Zillow: did I sell my house and forget? According to the news report, when John checked Zillow, the listing looked wrong. The price was off, the status didn't look like what he expected. His first reaction was confusion. Was my house recently sold? He knew he hadn't sold it, he hadn't signed away anything, but the online listing made it look like something had changed.
With the sweat equity that I put into this.
Like a lot of us, from time to time, he checks the value of his investment. When he checked Zillow in 2019, he couldn't believe what he saw.
I'm like, why is Zillow saying my house is recently sold? And for $160,000, when the market value is like, $350 at the time and stuff. So I'm panicking.
That panic turned to fear when he went to the county property appraiser's office and discovered this deed had been filed with his forged signature, showing he sold the house.
And I said, let's look at some camera footage when this person tried to record this deed. And it was like it was done online. I'm like, you just allow anybody just to send documents and you just go with it with any type of authenticity, any type of, verification like that? Yeah, that's just what we do.
So you learned that day that just filing that document is all someone needs to do to take your house.
That's it.
The deed looks legit, but according to the Pinellas County Sheriff's Office, it's fake. And the notary stamp that made this official, you guessed it, it's fake too.
They just gave him my house on probably 2 hours worth of work of electronically transmitting those documents.
Wow, and your house that you built.
With my hands. For 3 years, nights and weekends is when I worked on this house.
That confusion turned into panic. It's a nightmare feeling. Your home of many years, the one you built by hand, suddenly appears online as though it belongs to someone else. Instead of ignoring it, he did what you're supposed to do. He went straight to the county offices to check the official records. At the county property appraiser's office, they pulled up his records, and that's where everything spiraled. A deed had been filed, on record, showing that he had sold his house. This deed included his forged signature. On paper, the system now believed that John had willingly transferred his property to someone else. Imagine standing there and being shown a legal document that says you sold your home, when you know you never did. Your name is on it, but you didn't sign it. Someone else copied it, forged it, or created it from scratch. Naturally, he started asking questions. How was this filed? Was there any verification? Did anyone check ID? Did anyone call him? The answer was chilling. The filing was done online. In many counties, a person can upload deed documents electronically, pay a small fee, and have them recorded without ever appearing in person. As long as the document looks right, deed format, signatures, notary stamp, the system often just records it. In other words, one of the most important rights you have, ownership of your home, can be flipped on its head with a PDF and a forged notary stamp. On the surface, the deed filed on John's property looked legitimate. But investigators later determined it was fake. The signatures weren't his, and the notary stamp that made the document look official was also fraudulent. None of the people whose names appeared had actually been involved in a real sale. That forged deed was enough to change the county's records. On paper, ownership had now been transferred away from John. That meant the scammer could do what real owners do: try to sell the property to an unsuspecting buyer, use the property as collateral for a mortgage or loan, shift the title between shell entities to hide the fraud. What took John years of labor to build could be stolen in about 2 hours of paperwork and electronic submission. As he put it, they were essentially handed his house after a couple of hours of online work. Years later, a Plant City real estate broker named Michael Bogstead, spelled slightly differently in various reports and captions, was arrested and charged in a scheme to defraud. Detectives in Florida alleged that he targeted at least 6 homes, including John's, by creating fraudulent deeds and fictitious mortgage documents. According to the sheriff's office and local reporting,
it took Jenkins 2 months to get his house back. 4 years later, Plant City real estate broker Michael Bogstead was arrested and charged with scheme to defraud. Pinellas County detectives allege he stole at least 6 houses, including Jenkins's house. Bogstead, detectives say, created fraudulent deeds and fictitious mortgage documents and then transferred ownership to various entities so he could either take out a mortgage or sell to an unsuspecting buyer. Bogstead pleaded not guilty, and his attorney tells me he has...
Here's how the pattern worked. He looked for properties that appeared abandoned, heading to tax auction, or owned by people who seemed unlikely to notice fast, such as those behind on taxes or not living on site. He created fake deeds, forged signatures, and used notary stamps to make them look official. He filed these documents electronically through online real estate systems, shifting ownership on paper to entities he controlled. Once he had control on record, he could either take out loans against the properties or sell them to unsuspecting buyers. In John's case, it took him around 2 months of fighting to get his house back on record. 2 months of stress and uncertainty. All because someone abused a system that was designed for convenience, not for high-tech fraud. John's story isn't an isolated glitch. Across the United States, real estate and deed-related fraud has been rising. The FBI's Internet Crime Complaint Center has reported that real estate fraud losses jumped from roughly $173 million in 2024 to over $275 million in 2025, driven by thousands of complaints about title, deed, and transaction scams. Why is it growing? More counties now accept electronic filings. Property records are publicly searchable online. Scammers can identify vacant, distressed, or investment properties without leaving their couch. AI tools and cheap graphic software make forging documents and signatures easier. Deed theft, also called deed fraud or title hijacking, is one of the more extreme forms of this. Instead of tricking you into wiring money in a fake transaction, they simply pretend to be you and sell or mortgage your home behind your back. You might not find out until you try to refinance, sell, or notice strange mail, and by then, unwinding the damage can be complicated and costly. One of the most common reactions from homeowners is, "I live in my house. No one can steal it from me." Or, "I have a mortgage. The bank is involved, so I'm safe." The experts in this case make it very clear. That assumption is wrong. Living in your home doesn't stop someone from filing a fake deed behind your back. Having a mortgage doesn't prevent someone from trying to transfer the title or create fraudulent releases and satisfactions of mortgage documents. In John's situation, his house looked vacant at times because he traveled a lot for work. From the outside, that might have made it look like an abandoned or empty property, a perfect target for someone scanning records and driving through neighborhoods. Detectives believe the accused fraudster deliberately targeted homes that looked empty, were heading to auction, or appeared tied to owners struggling with taxes. In other words, people who were less likely to catch the fraud quickly. The uncomfortable truth is, this can happen even if you are living in your house and paying your bills on time. If you're still watching, you're already doing more than most homeowners ever do. You're paying attention. On this channel, we don't just tell scary stories. We explain exactly how these scams work and what you can do to protect yourself. If you own property, or plan to, and you want to stay ahead of scams like deed fraud, consider subscribing and turning on notifications. That way, when we cover the next twist in real estate scams or the newest tricks criminals are using, you'll see it before they see you as a target. One video today could be the reason you spot a forged filing or strange notice tomorrow. How this fraud gets caught. The role of title professionals. In John's case, one thing worked in his favor: the vigilance of professionals on the other side of the deal. A title company, Synergy Title Partners, spotted strange activity linked to his property. They saw suspicious transactions involving the accused broker and flagged them to law enforcement, including an attempted sale of John's home. They weren't just processing papers, they were actively looking for patterns that didn't make sense. This highlights an important point. Good title companies and closing attorneys are frontline defenders against deed fraud. They cross-check sellers, examine chains of title, and question documents that don't fit. When something looks off, they can stop a sale, refuse to insure the title, and notify investigators. Even so, they can't catch everything. If a scammer sells to a naive buyer or uses the property mainly to take out a loan from a less careful lender, the fraud can slip through. That's why you, as the property owner, need your own defense system too. You might be wondering, okay, this is terrifying. What can I actually do? The key to beating deed fraud is early detection. The sooner you know something has been filed against your property, the easier it is to fight it. Here are practical steps based on what counties and legal experts now recommend. Sign up for property alert programs. Many counties now offer free or low-cost alert systems through the clerk or recorder's office. You register your name and property, and if any new deed, lien, or related document is filed, you get an email or text. That's your early warning siren. Check your property records periodically. Just like you might check your credit report, get into the habit of checking your property record online a couple of times a year. Make sure the owner name, mailing address, and recorded documents look correct. Watch for unexpected mail. Letters addressed to people you don't know at your address, unexpected mortgage offers, foreclosure notices, or tax bills that don't line up with your payments can all be signals that something is wrong. Keep your mailing address up to date with the county. If the county sends notices to an old address, you might miss critical warnings about filings, taxes, or actions related to your property. Act immediately if you see something suspicious. If you discover a deed or other document you didn't sign, contact your county clerk or recorder's office and law enforcement right away. Then consult a real estate attorney or title professional who has experience with deed fraud. The longer fraudulent documents sit unchallenged, the harder they can be to unwind. Be cautious with vacant or rental properties. Homes that appear empty, under renovation, or tenant occupied can be especially attractive to scammers. If you own investment or inherited property, monitor those records as carefully as your primary residence. Why this matters now more than ever. Real estate fraud isn't just a Florida problem or a vacant house problem. FBI data shows that losses from real estate-related fraud have surged, and legal experts are warning that technological tools are making it easier to forge, file, and exploit official records. When systems are built for speed and convenience, criminals will always look for ways to ride along. Online filing, easy document templates, scam signatures, all of these save time for honest people, but they also lower the barrier for sophisticated scams. That's why lawmakers, title associations, and local governments are now talking about reforms: stronger verification for deed filings, tighter notary rules, and better notification systems for owners. But until those protections are universal and airtight, the most reliable alarm system is still a human being who's paying attention. You. Think back to John for a moment. He bought his land decades ago. He worked for years to build a home literally brick by brick. He checked his property value like any proud homeowner. And then, one random day, he finds out that, on paper, someone else now owns everything he built. He had to fight for months to get his title back. He had to deal with the stress of knowing a stranger had tried to profit off his life's work. All because a fraudster figured out how to turn a legal system into a weapon of theft. His story is not meant to make you paranoid. It's meant to wake you up. To remind you that assuming the system will always protect you is not a strategy. Knowing how the system can be abused, and how to monitor your own records is. If you own a home, or you hope to one day, remember this: your deed is not just a piece of paper, it's the key to everything you've put into that property. Your money, your time, your memories. And that key can be quietly copied if you're not watching. So after this video, do one thing for yourself or your family. Go to your county clerk or recorder's website, look up your property, and see what's on file. If your county offers property alerts, sign up. It takes a few minutes, and it might be the difference between catching fraud early and finding out the hard way when it's already too late. If you want to understand how these scams connect to other property crimes, like mortgage fraud, fake rental listings, and wire transfer scams in real estate deals, the next video I recommend is where we break down how criminals target real estate transactions step by step. from phishing emails to faked wiring instructions. And if this video helped you see your biggest asset in a new light, consider subscribing. Not because it's just another channel to follow, but because being informed about scams like this is one of the simplest ways to protect the place you call home. Stay safe, keep an eye on your records, and never assume that just because you're living in your house, no one can try to steal it on paper.